So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Pitch Pack, courtesy of Pitch Pack under Chronic Fitness. And today we have a Juneteenth special, which is called Liberation, Breaking the Binds in Diet and Self-Care. So here we go into our intro. You guys here? Intros before we start this presentation. This evening we have Kwynn Mason, who is the owner of Kwynntessential Solutions. She's a food relationship expert and lactation specialist. She helps individuals establish a healthier relationship with food by adapting a positive attitude towards food, where you can eat what you want without the guilt. Who doesn't love that? Kwynn has been a registered dietitian since 2012. She believes food is a healer and our best medicine. Before we use food to heal, you have to develop a healthy relationship with it. So welcome, Kwynn. A little bit about myself. I'm the founder of Chronic Fitness. For those who don't already know, I'm a former athletic product development manager who has now built a business in the fitness arena for people with chronic related health challenges. I work with clients to attain a sustainable life and health and educating them on diet and environmental exposures that impact their journey. We do not set superficial goals. Embarking on a fitness journey might not be the easiest thing to do, but I believe it is definitely a step closer to your dream. So this evening, in celebration of Juneteenth month, which is June 19th, so in light of the emancipation of 1865, which was 157 years ago, don't know about you, but that really wasn't that long ago. It was long ago, but it wasn't that long ago. So we start with, actually, skip a few screens. Okay, so we start with the West Africa, where our diet included those of the following. As we see here on this screenshot, we have plant-based foods, we have fruits and greens, and we only have a small portion of meat. So this was the diet of West Africa back in the day, okay, which this type of diet prepares you for low risk of ailments, not too good. Though weights and equipment were not what we know of them today, it was enough to gain strength and physical activity through working on plantations from sundown to sundusk, bending, walking, carrying, running, and dancing. So let's talk about how we change our mentality and how we think about food and how we think of exercise with the available tools that we do have today. So let's start with you, Kwynn.
Good evening, everybody. Happy Juneteenth. I hope you had a wonderful week and leading into this glorious weekend. And I just want to thank you, Yolanda, for inviting me on here. I'm so excited to talk about this topic today. So as she introduced, my name is Kwynn Mason of Kwynntessential Solutions. I am a registered dietitian and food relationship specialist. So what that means is I help people build that healthy relationship relationship with food. And more importantly, I help them find that disconnect between knowing what to eat and actually putting it on your plate and getting it into your body. So that looks like understanding why you are drawn to certain foods, why you usually gravitate towards certain types of foods, even though we know we should be eating like some healthier options, but we just don't. Honestly, you just don't feel like eating it, right? Because other foods taste better. So why are we, what is that connection that we have to that food? So that's what I help my clients figure out. And then we use that information to like reframe, reshape their diet so it looks a lot more balanced. So in lieu with today's topic, we're going to be linking our past way of eating to our present. And again, using that information to reshape our future. So as I was thinking about what to talk about today, I was like, well, what's something I hear a lot? And one thing that came to mind was when we talk about linking our past, I hear a lot of people say, well, my parents, my grandparents, my great grandparents, they ate like this and they lived a long, healthy life, right? And so what I'm really hearing as a clinician is they ate like this, so I'm going to eat like this too, and I'm going to be able to live just as long and just as healthy as they did by this style of eating because it worked for them. So why wouldn't it work for me? And again, as the professional and as the expert here, I have to consider all of the facts, right? So we have to look at the bigger picture and beyond basically just like what is on your plate. And so that's when I start digging and asking the questions and kind of get the wheels turning and get you to thinking and seeing where I'm coming from to understand that I'm not just being the bad guy here. So it's one of the questions that comes to mind is, okay, so what did your ancestors eat, right? And so like Yolanda touched on a little bit is we came from eating, a lot of plant-based fruits and vegetables, minimal meat until when we were brought into America and we were fed pretty much scraps. And so what did that look like for us? It looked like a bunch of chitlins and, the feet of the animal, the tail of the animal, the fat parts, the gizzards, the liver, the organs that the other people didn't want to eat. They just passed them on to us. So it was a lot of scrap foods that we had to make work for us. And because we are just Black magic, we made it work very well because now people are of all cultures are selling these same animal parts that we were forced to eat and making a profit off of it. So we were able to make it work for us under the circumstances that we were dealt with. But you want to think about what did they eat and then why did they eat that way? And so it wasn't just because they wanted to, but that was just what they had. And then what did their portion size look like? So, I mean, if you think about it, they weren't just, putting as much food as they wanted on their plates, right? So thinking about, did they have to portion this out to make sure everybody ate? Did anybody have to sacrifice eating that day so that somebody else could eat, maybe a child or a husband or whatever the case may be? So thinking about that, or how many times a day did they eat? So, it's not looking like the traditional or what we preach today or what you hear is eat three, try to eat 3 meals and get a couple of snacks in between. I'm pretty sure they weren't doing that in slavery. They just had to eat when they could. So they don't have that luxury of eating when they're hungry. Like I tell my clients today, let your body guide you and let it tell you when you're hungry, when you're full and all of that. So they didn't have that luxury like we do today. And then what was their lifestyle like? So that is a big factor. They didn't have cars, they didn't have Uber, they didn't have Lyft, they didn't have delivery services, they didn't have, you can drive up to, I have Walmart and Kroger, but you can't just drive up to the grocery store and pop your trunk open and boom, they put the groceries in there, right? So they had to walk to the store or they had to bike to the store. So their lifestyle is completely different and it's not as sedentary as we are today where things are just available literally at our fingertips. And so taking all of that into consideration, yes, they did eat high fat, high salt, maybe even high sugary foods. However, on the flip side, they were very, very active, whether it was working in the farm, whether it was, having to pick cotton, they were out in the heat, they were constantly moving that body to be able to to not be able to let that fat really have an effect on their bodies. And so when you take all of that into consideration, and then even the fact that now we have like fast food places or food options every block, right? So they didn't have that then. So taking all of that into consideration, it is understandable why we I hate to say can't, but we have to be much more cautious of how we eat, because all of the factors are not the same. So you don't want to put yourself into that box of thinking, just because they ate like this, I should be able to eat like this and live the same life, because the variables have now changed. But again, like I like to tell my clients, think about this. We are breaking years and years and years and years of habits. And we're not going to be able to do that in a 90-day period, a 6-month period, or even a 1-year period. So again, being kind and patient with yourself and understanding why that bind is there and why that bind is there and why we need to break it. So the big question is, how do you break that bind? Number one, you need to know what you are bound to. So I always tell people, know what battle you fighting and know what tools to bring to the war. So if you are fighting the wrong battle, then you're not going to get the results that you're looking for. So know what you're bound to, and then also know what drives that bound. So if you're bound to sugary foods or salty foods, you need to understand what created that. What is driving that for you? And 9 times out of 10, it is not even food related. You don't eat that way because you're hungry. You don't eat that way because you're incompetent or anything like that. But there is something else that is really attaching you to that food, and you need to figure out what that is so that you can address that issue. And then you start to detach yourself from whatever it is that you're bound to, which gets me to the third tool, or to the third tip, is to get the tools that will help you start to detach yourself. So what do those tools look like? It is not avoidance. It is not avoiding the donuts and the cookies and the cakes. That is not how you break that bind. But it is more so getting that control, being in control of what you eat so that you can make the honest decision and say, yes or no, I'm going to eat that. And your feelings, get this is what's the most important. You have neutral feelings. So you feel the same way, whether you say yes or no to that food item. There's no guilt. There's no regret, no, nothing like that. You're just okay with whatever decision you choose to make, and knowing that there's no right or wrong. So with that, if you follow me, I don't believe in diets, because diets kind of tell you what's appropriate to eat and what's inappropriate to eat. But the thing is, when you come off of that diet, you fall right back into the binds that were already there. So all they do is mask it for a little bit of time. They don't teach you how to break that bind. And so that is what is the key, is truly learning how to break that bind so that you can be in control of your diet. You can be in control of your plate. You can be in control of your cravings. So what I do is I give you the tools that you need, and you build your own diet, you build your own foundation, and it is something that works for only you. And that is what's so special and unique about it. So with all of that said, that is pretty much the end of my presentation, but I am definitely available for questions. I do have a couple of options available to help you break that bind if you are bound to any type of food or any type of way of eating, or if you feel like you have some type of food addiction. I'm definitely here to serve you.
Those who are on today and those who check our replay, paid attention to what you said, because you hit upon some very important parts that we should all consider, as we try to live a healthy life. So for me, I'm going to start with, is BMI affected by ethnicity? So BMI is the body mass index, levels as a stepping stone, if you will, to exercise, or to an exercise conversation. And how do we deem that as being healthy in 2022? Okay, so yes, BMI does differ considerably by ethnicity, and we can vary among subpopulations as well if we want to break down the conversation. So within ethnicity, because of the environmental factor, by the lifestyle factor, for example, Black people who live in urban areas, their BMI levels will be perhaps differently than those that live in the rural areas. So we know that back in the day, the 1600s, I gave a brief of what the diet was. Okay, so as diet of the 1600s for Black people, we were looking at a diet extremely high in starch and fat, okay, which many times has contributed to malnutrition and vitamin deficiencies, which Kwynn has also discussed further on. So we know that these high calorie diets typically were worked off during a long day. You know, our people work from morning to dusk. So probably a little bit more than our typical 8 hours a day that we do now for our 9 to 5 jobs. So what does that mean? Okay, they worked off through long hours of working in the fields and in the house on the plantation. So this was the exercise concept, and whatever they had going on, it leveled itself off in terms of health-wise. So though the food may not have been good, they were actually doing activities, those who could do activities, because we know those, if you had any ailments and things going on, you probably worked in another part or in the house, and you know, it's like all these different components and all of that. So if you did the working and did all of that kind of stuff, you actually burned off what you needed to burn off by eating the food that you were eating. So in 2022, many of us work at jobs where we sit at a desk for 8 hours. So once we clock out, we usually go to our car and then we drive home. And then we eat the kinds of food mentioned with high calories without incorporating any type of physical activity in our day-to-day. So sitting is good. However, you need to walk and try to build up some type of physical components. Okay, it can't just be you slide over here to this part of your desk and you slide back to the other part of your desk. That's not exercise. And I know I've spoken for this series that I was doing where the guideline in terms of how much exercise a week that each person should be doing, I think children would be a little bit more because they have extra energy and all of that. That's like a whole other conversation. But for adults, we're looking at 150 minutes a week. So we're talking about 25 minutes for 5 days, okay? And you break out the days however you want to break it out. So those are things to think about because it's important, because when we eat these kind of foods mentioned with high calories and so forth, and we don't put in the day-to-day activity, we do put ourselves at risk for heart disease, colon-related illnesses, and neurological disorders. And we already know as African-American, Caribbean, whatever, just say Black people, we are always affected by whatever disease is out there. It tends to hit us extra hard. And if you listen to what I said in terms of what our makeup was, in terms of what our diet was, right? And now, so many 100 years later, you know what I mean? It's like you have to really understand the science of it all, okay? This is what we're made of. However, this is kind of what we're doing, okay? So poor dietary habits are the #1 cause of premature death in the United States. And according to the Center for Science and Public Interest, unhealthy diet contributes to approximately 678,000 deaths a year. Okay, so no longer following the standards of European dietary model that we have blindly followed or had no choice but to follow and try to make it our own. But we must make conscious efforts to choose wisely, okay, whether it's in food and whether it's in exercise. The two go together. The two really go together. So we must make conscious efforts to choose wisely. So making a goal change is about sticking to a goal or developing a goal. How do you want to live your life? As any small effort makes a change in your thinking about the effort in the past, here are some ideas to consider when turning the step forward and breaking the bind, okay? Be specific in what changes that you want you and your family to move forward, okay? Is it walking together perhaps every minute, every evening for 20 minutes, maybe before, after dinner, okay? Be specific exactly what it is that you are trying to do as you move forward with a healthy mindset, okay? Make sure the goal is measurable. Like if the goal is to walk every night at 7 o'clock and you know you get home at 6:30, then you probably ain't gonna meet that goal of every evening at 7 o'clock doing that 20-minute walk. So just make it be mindful, let it make sense, let it be measurable. And are your goals to fitness attainable, or are you striving too high? You know, if you're saying you want to do the marathon and the marathon starts in 6 months, do you think you could really realistically get your body trained and ready to run a marathon in just 6 months? You have people who start training for like a year and change, you know what I'm saying? So don't strive too high. And not only that, you really have to know yourself as to what you can and cannot do. And is it attainable? You know, again, avoid aiming too high or too low. Realistically, losing 10 pounds a week sounds great, but we know, okay, that's a huge feat, okay? So that means if I'm telling you, you need to be in the gym realistically 25 to 30 minutes, let's say a day, really 5 days, but let's say if you're trying to lose 10 pounds within a week, so let's rev it up to 7 days. But we also know the body is the body. You still need to rest, you know, because if you're new to exercise, you're going to be sore those first couple of days. So you really have to be mindful of that. You know, the body is an engine, but it does have to rest because it won't give you the energy to do what it is that you seek to do. So realistically, the 10 pounds is a reach. It's a reach, you know what I'm saying? And then if you put the diet aspect of it, so that's like, okay, what are you doing? Drinking water and eating a cracker a day? You know, that's probably not the most healthy way to go about it. And then lastly, we're talking about timing, like choose specific goals within a timeline that makes sense. You know, I think sometimes a lot of us, we overseek in terms of this is what you want. Like in the patience level is very small with most people, where they want it now, they want that big butt tomorrow. They don't want to do those squats, you know, or those other low body exercises that can perhaps get you to that along with your diet, right? A lot of people, they want it like now. So they go for those BBLs, they go for the surgery. I mean, whatever you do is whatever you do. But what happens when you do those things? Like, you still want to maintain that big butt, okay? That's that flat stomach. Like if you eating at McDonald's every day, that ain't gonna work after you done spent all that money. So it's still a consistent goal that you can kind of reach now, like the regular way. The thing that I thought was interesting, just to go over briefly, when we talk about the BMI, that's really an important factor for a lot of people when they're seeking the diet aspect and the fitness aspect. Okay, your weight measurements make a difference, not so much as what the scale is saying in terms of, you know, your weight, but think about it to your midsection, you know, different areas of your body. Like what is your measurement, and is it within the guideline ratio that it should be? So people who are underweight, they're what, 18.5 is like what the average should be, or whatever. Normal is 18.5 to 24.9 in terms of if you measure your waist. Okay, it's considered overweight if your waist area is 25 to 29.9, and then it's considered obese if your waistline is 30 to 34.9, and extremely obese is 35 and up. So what does that mean? Well, these are things, as I mentioned, as be specific or what your fitness goals are. This is like an important aspect to consider. Exactly what is it you're trying to do? You're not just trying to do exercises just to do exercises, because just like Kwynn said, you follow your typical diet, that can like phase out. You know what I'm saying? It really has to make sense to what it is you're trying to do. You can't just, you can do it, but we already know the consistency after a while that dies off for some people. Like, especially if they don't see the developments that they in the results right away, they'll feel like I've been exercising for like 2 months and I'm barely losing weight. Okay, there's other factors. What you're eating. Are you really working out every day? Like, what else is kind of going on? Are you on medications? Because those meds can also affect, you know, the end result in terms of that. You know, health is wealth, you know, and I've said this as well, like a lot of people who I speak with in the different sectors that I'm in, these are small Black business owners, women business owners. So it's good that we grinding for that money. We're trying to get these businesses together, but health is wealth. If you are sickly, or if you're not eating right, or if you're not doing some form of exercise, it just doesn't correlate in terms of, okay, you're trying to get this business here, however, you're not doing what you need to do health-wise. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't kind of go together. So we have Kwynntessential Solutions. Kwynn, do you want to talk about what I have on the screen, which I didn't put in the chat, but I'm gonna try to do that now while you're talking.
Yeah, for sure. So with Kwynntessential Solutions, no, that's fine. You can go right there. I offer I like to call it a mini e-course. It is called Ditch Your Diet. And what that does is help you identify, so like we talked about before, identify what you are bound to and identify why you are bound to it. So we talk about, you know, we get down to the nitty gritty, I will say that. So I take you through some exercises. I have worksheets in there that will ask you some questions that will help you figure out exactly what it is that you need to work on when it comes to your diet. And like I said, it is not just food. So I already know that you know that fruits and vegetables are healthy. So that is not what I'm necessarily asking. We do talk about that a little bit, but it's not just, are you eating 5 fruits and vegetables, and are you eating whole grains, and are you eating meats? No, I'm asking you things like, what do you pass by on your way to work? You know, because we need to know about the triggers. That's some things you don't even think about, you know, like what are you seeing on TV? What is feeding into you? Because all of that can be part of why you are gravitating towards certain types of foods, but you don't think about that because you don't know. And so we talk about all those things and just help you really unveil all of those hurdles that you need to overcome. So it is called Ditch Your Diet. It has some modules in there. And the price is $67 for attendees today. So if you go ahead on there, you can get in for that price. You have lifetime access. And then also I am offering a free 30-minute consultation. So once you purchase it, I'll be able to see who bought it from the webinar today. And then I will reach out so that we can go ahead and get that 30-minute consultation scheduled.
Sounds good. Sorry, I thought I could copy over the link. It's not letting me do that.
Okay.
So I had to write it in the chat thing.
Okay.
So, so with Chronic Fitness, I think I put it out in the universe. We just relaunched our website. So we have some cool programs where it's more tailored to what it is people are seeking. The social media is what I have there. I'm on Instagram, chronic_fitness_biz. Facebook is Chronic Fitness. Twitter is CFit 5775551. I don't know why Twitter did it that way, but I don't know. But that's my thing. So what I'm giving this evening, well, I'm going to have this up for the weekend because our audience members, for those who weren't able to catch it tonight, I'll just pass the word. I'll leave this up until Sunday. So I'm doing a 1-to-1 bundle where I'm giving a 30-minute goal fitness assessment conversation. Then I'm providing a 2-day exercise e-guide, which you can read at your own convenience in terms of exercise that you can try out, including the warm up, the routine, and the cool down. So you have 2 days worth of tailored exercises to go with. Then I'm giving you a virtual fitness badge for attending today. And then Monday, I'm doing a live session just for those who purchased this before Sunday. And I'll provide the link based on that. So I'm doing a 25-minute Instagram live access only special. So this 1-to-1 bundle will be $35 for anybody that's interested in that. It's a steal. So catch it because Sunday and that goes away. Part of marketing this was people, you have access to a registered certified dietitian, which is rare. Okay. So if you don't take advantage of that, I don't know what to tell you. Okay. Ditch your diet, the deal. Kwynn already gave you those details. And then you have a certified personal trainer. So just wanted to throw that out there when people look at this, because I may add this little part conversation.
For sure.
But if there's no further questions, I will say I hope everyone has a glorious weekend and happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth.